Fly, Robin, fly. It's F-15 Strike Eagle on Amigos, episode 376. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about F-15 Strike Eagle Part
Oh,
2.
duh.
Yeah. Now, Aaron, I know that you're not much of a flyer. We were talking about this before the show. Did you ever harbor any fantasies about becoming a fighter pilot?
No, God, no, because I could get killed. But on the flip side, I did harbor many fantasies about being an astronaut, and
Mhm.
the majority of them were fighter pilots, and back in the day, anyway.
Yeah.
So I suppose the road to get to astronaut would take me through fighter pilot.
Yeah. I'm the same as you. I don't really like. There's really nothing about being a fighter pilot that excites me. You're in a crammed space. You're experiencing lots of G's. I can barely
Oh,
deal with my,
jeez.
I can barely deal with my own G,
Yeah,
let
no
alone anybody
kidding.
else's. And so, there's a significant chance that you're going to die. And
Yeah.
you're not. I mean, there's not a whole lot of second chances in the fighter pilot world.
I will say I'd rather fly in an F-15 Strike Eagle than I would in, say, like the plane from like Knights of the Sky or Wings.
Yeah, that's
Because
true. The open cockpit special.
if you're looking at those planes, I mean, you hear this today. They make fun of it, but it's true. Those were literally, it's in some cases, just like paper and string. It's
Right,
so
right.
twine and
I know
crap.
you've been up to the Air Force Museum up
Yeah,
in Dayton. You look
yeah.
at those things and you wonder how anybody ever survived.
Yeah, and a lot of those early planes, before they even had fought in a war, they would just go out and wreck. They didn't have to
Yeah.
be
They
to be
didn't need to be
attacked.
shot down. They
Yeah,
brought
so
themselves down. So,
and then they had during the First World War, you had 20 minuters because that's how long you were in the air before you get killed.
mhm.
So at least you had a better shot. I mean, even in World War II, the planes had improved substantially. But now look at it like the modern aircraft. I mean, it's like a UFO or something. They've got all these meters and gauges and screens and stuff. I think it's funny though as we move through 2022. I think the days of proper fighter pilots are probably coming to an end because they've got the ability to use drones and whatnot in these things. So I wonder how much longer they're going to bother even putting humans in these planes, Bode.
Yeah. Well, and we're seeing that more and more with, drone-based warfare and things
Yeah,
like that. The pilot, if you can fly a plane remotely in a simulator, especially some sort of a combat in a combat scenario, why not? Why
yeah.
not do it? Now, of course, the downside to that is that maybe your pilots won't be quite so careful, given these things still cost $1 billion a piece.
That's true. Let me ask you, since they released that the Top Gun 2 this summer, as we
Mhm.
record this, which I didn't see, by the way. What's your favorite like film that has like fighter guys in it?
Well, I don't know that I've seen that many. I finally watched Top Gun for the first time last year,
The
the
first one.
original Top
Yeah.
Gun. What other movies are there that are fighter pilot based? Airplane?
I'm gonna go with like Hot Shots. Would
Oh
be my
yeah,
favorite.
yeah. I
At least
mean,
those were funny. I
mhm.
never thought Top Gun was all that great. I know people loved it. I mean, the soundtrack was okay, but I don't know. It just seemed sort of I don't know, dopey or
Mhm.
whatever to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the second one, they're like, it's just like the first one. I was like, well, I'm not gonna rush out to see it, but I know people love them.
Yeah, like I much like you, I harbored fantasies about being a spaceman. I didn't call them astronauts when I was a kid. It was
Yeah,
always spaceman.
yeah,
And
understandable.
and I still love spaceman movies. Give me Apollo 13, give me The Martian. I love all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that does seem like the ultimate end goal for any fighter pilot, but it's probably not. I don't know. What do you think scarier, going into combat in an airplane or like going to space?
Oh man. Well, going into space, you are relying much more on the computers, and there's lots of different systems at play. I guess on a plane it's sort of the same way. But the advantages is going into space, there's not people up there actively trying to shoot you down.
Yeah, not yet anyway.
Not yet.
Would you do one of the old Captain Kirks and go up in the SpaceX thing? Would you
Heck yeah. I
do?
do
Oh,
that in a second.
you would do that?
Mhm.
I figure you are you saving up to
No,
how many
because I would
pictures you
never
have to scan
even
to
if
get
I
up
was
there?
even if I was rich, I wouldn't be able to justify the cost to myself.
Yeah.
I would think about all the good I could do with that money in pretty much any other way imaginable.
Now,
So,
what if you could take yourself and the wife up? Then you do it.
yeah, then I'd probably do it because
Yeah.
then I'd be like, I'm doing it for you, honey, just like I bought that pinball machine for you.
By the way, just in closing, if I was going to go into war and I had a choice of pilots between you and your wife, I would pick her 10 times out of 10.
Well, that's the correct answer.
She's got dexterity and she's tough. You're not that tough, and you don't.
No, I'm weak as water.
We both sort of fall. I mean, you don't want me as your wing guy either. We'd both be killed.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, speaking of crashing and burning, let's move on to this week's Amiga News.
That's great, Booth.
Amiga News.
Now, I know what you're thinking, Aaron. Where is all the Amiga OS 4 news?
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you it's here. This week, we have a story about OS 4. This is our very own Level Lord, sort of Amigos community superstar.
Oh, yeah.
Has released the newest version of his application, Level Pointers. These are a modern high-res set of pointer presets for Amiga OS 4.1. And they are available. They are freeware, and they are available for you to use. Now, Aaron, I know that you're into your directory opuses and all of your, in-depth utilities on the Amiga. Did you ever mess around with having some custom pointers?
Probably. I mean, a lot of the stuff I used to do back in the when the Amiga was still a contemporary computer, I don't remember, to be honest with you. I mean, I knew so much more about the Amiga then than I do now. Now it's like make game go. That's pretty much the extent of my knowledge. But yeah, I do seem to recall fooling with these. Now, you say Level Lord's involved in these.
Level Lord, yeah, Level Lord, basically he adapted these. These are loosely based on a set of pointers for Linux called the DMZ White and Quintom. That were later licensed under Creative Commons use. So these are completely free. You can take these and you can install them. Yeah, this is the newest release, was just released back on November 5th. So if you got the initial release back in October, make sure you grab the updated version of these pointers and have just the best experience possible on your OS 4 device.
I'm gonna put the Lord over for a minute. Because when we met him,
I will too,
at Boat Fest last year. Like he's as smart and as charming as he is huge. He's this big, like lumbering ball of fun and
looks
intellect.
like a fullback.
That's right, and he's also he brings the heat. He knows what he's talking about. He's not just like a poser. He knows his stuff. So when you tell me that this guy's putting out pointers for Amiga OS 4, I believe it.
Remember those juices he brought?
Those are good drinking, Boat.
Oh,
Everything
man.
he brought was good drinking.
I still use his wooden bowls that he left there.
There you go. We love the lore. It was great to
Yeah,
meet
we
him.
do. All right, Aaron, our next story coming up here is a new video from Chris Edwards, another friend of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Want a super fast Amiga, the BFG 9060 128 meg 100 megahertz CPU. This is about 900 words that I don't understand, Aaron, so you're going to have to decode it for me.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I did watch this, and I couldn't help but watch it with that wacky opening with him. I love the fact that he co-hosts his own show. And Bo, if you knew about that technology, I'd have been gone years ago. With all that said, it's time that this board here I think it's got a 68060 in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I saw a couple people tinker around with something like that this week, and of course, it's the usual shtick. He puts it in and then puts it through its paces. But man, this thing, I mean, it seemed like it went in pretty smooth by Chris's standards. He gives you the full scoop. He runs some demos, some speed stuff. He prints there's a bit you've got to do. It's got to print there it is. Print the ball. You got to print the ball. And then he tinkers with some switches and then runs this stuff again and he juices it up more. So just another big piece of hardware. It seems like these aren't even that expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking up the price here. It looks like the price is 300 euros.
Yeah.
And according to Chris in the chat, there are 5 left. 10 euros of each sale go to a German charity called Oh boy, I'm not going to try that.
Go for
It's
it,
a
Bo.
German charity that helps Ukrainian refugees.
Oh,
So
that's
a
dandy.
little bit of your money goes to a good cause as well.
Now, we do have Chris in the chat here. I'm guessing, just from the video, Chris, you're giving these the enthusiastic thumbs up. They look like a pretty good piece of kit, and they're fast. Now, I think you've got to go out and provide your own 60060. Those things ain't cheap. You got to go dig one of those up. But if you could find one,
Well, you
heck,
get
you're good to
it's
go.
250 with no CPU and 300 with the CPU.
Oh, that seems like a pretty good bargain to me,
Yeah.
Bode.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
watch if you are interested in learning about this thing. Watch Chris's video. It's called "Want a Super Fast Amiga: The BFG 9060 128 100 CPU." So good stuff. I enjoyed it, Bode.
Yeah, yeah. And our final news story of the week, kind of a light news week this week after all of the Amiga Game Jam announcements from last week. Our buddy Neil, our boy Neil RMC from the cave,
I heard it,
he's back at it with part 2 of resurrecting and restoring some classic Amiga hard drives. Now, I know that there are people out there that they want to run stuff from floppy all the time. I think our buddy Paco Take is like that.
Yeah.
He's all floppy all the time.
I've heard that.
Ugh. So, but Aaron, do you have any personal nostalgia about, classic contemporary hard drives running games not off a compact flash or an SD card solution? You only want to do it off the original spinning platters of the hard drive.
Not especially, I mean, if I'm honest, and I don't hold it against anyone that wants to load stuff off tape or whatever, or off a floppy or anything else. But I've lived through all this stuff, so to me, every incremental update that got me further away from 5.25-inch floppy drives was a good thing. So listen, I used to. I remember having to smush stuff on a disc to get my startup to work on the Amiga. And I remember having to use EXE compression on my PC so I could put more stuff on a floppy because I didn't have that many floppies. And I was trying to put more and more stuff on them. And I didn't have a hard drive. Then when I did, I remember trying to stick more stuff on that, back stuff up the tape, etc., etc. I mean, I've done it all, brother. And I don't see any reason to go back. In fact, sitting right here beside me is an SSD I picked up for like a song. I got this thing for a song. It's like a 500, something gig or whatever. I got it for like $20 or whatever. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. This stuff right here. This other stuff, it just doesn't do it for me. With all that said, Neil does end up putting I think he does a compact flash gimmick on one of these or something. I watched this video, and the one thing that struck me is why didn't he keep that original orange color for these things? Now that's something to write home about. He went and painted them and stuff, and he did get some filament that was the proper color. I would have went with the orange because where are you going to see that? He also talks to a fellow that worked for Great Valley Products, which was interesting.
Mike Thomas.
The guy had some interesting tales. Including the one where the guy made the card they forgot to put the ROMs on there and cost the company zillions of dollars and got the boot. I like that. There he is. I like the shirt too.
I like how there was one guy, his only job was make sure the ROMs are on the board.
Yeah. This dude buried that guy. So I thought that was cool. GVP was sort of like they were sort of a pretty big deal. I mean, they were a big player back in the day. And in my mind, I expected it to be this huge, you always think this stuff's bigger than it is, but they weren't nearly as big as I thought. But I enjoyed this. It was pretty entertaining stuff, Boat.
Cool. Well, as always, make sure you check out RMC. He's always got lots of cool Amigo and retro computing content.
Before we move away from the news, a couple more items we want to talk about that is newsworthy. As we record this, our good buddy Doug from 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast and his partner Kevin Saunders will be doing the live unveiling, or I don't know what you call this, the demonstration, the display of all the art from the art contest that has been going on for several months. This thing's going down Saturday, the 12th of November, which is, as we record this, is tomorrow. at 1:30. It's what is it? 1:30 Mountain Standard Time. Am I reading that right, Boat?
That's right, 1:30 Mountain. I didn't even realize that was a time zone.
So
I'm not gonna lie to you.
that's what 12:30 is. That 12:30 here Eastern.
Listen,
Is that right?
no idea.
I
No
think it's
idea.
12:30 Eastern Standard Time, everybody. So this is a night owl sort of event.
Wait a minute. 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. That's like Arizona time.
Yeah. Well,
So
isn't he in
that would be
Arizona?
like 5:30 here, 4:30 or 5:30 p.m.
There you go. Oh, so it's there in the afternoon then.
He's not going to start this thing at 1:30
Listen,
a.m.
dude, I
his
don't know what
time.
Doug acts. He does some weird stuff, Boat. You never know. You know, some of these art things you have to do them at night. It's one of those fly by night deals. But
It's more of your kind of art.
I guess Doug's going to
see our show tag.
He's going to unveil, you know, the all the winners and stuff. So it should be fun. Hopefully, this will be not as some of his shows in the past have had some issues with the stream. So hopefully, this will go that hitch. But anyway, check that out. I also want to mention that if you're an Amigos Discord member, we are looking to do the Amigos annual Christmas gift exchange. There's a Discord group ready to go. So if you haven't noticed it, you want to get in there, all you have to do is go in there, say I'm in, and we will compile a list together. We'll get back with you and make that happen. And then lastly, Boat, I do want to mention that a week from tomorrow, which as I'm looking at the calendar here, that's a little thing we like to call Saturday, November 19th, 2022, myself and Professor Wrestling, the hoser Tim Legg, will be back in the BGW Arena for another night of incredibly hot wrestling action with all the superstars from Battleground Wrestling. Should be a lot of fun, Boat. We're going to miss you. You're going to be on assignment next week, but we'll try to hold up here to the bargain.
Unfortunately, I'll be up in Wheeling for my nephew's birthday.
Yeah.
But I will be with you in spirit, and I will make sure that you get the camera because you need that.
Yeah. It should be a lot of fun. I know the hose is excited. I'm always excited to do a little wrestling commentary. If you want to check that out, and we'll mention it again next week, but it'll be on Twitch, as always. And that usually kicks off
here's
at
some
7
real-time follow-up, just in case you were curious about that start time. Pixels at Dawn did the math.
Yes.
It starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern
Thank
time.
God. That's so much
and
better.
8:30 p.m. GMT.
So that's 3:30 p.m. for Doug's art contest. Check it out. That makes a lot more sense than what we were first assuming it was. So that's good. That's what we got coming up, Boat.
All right, man. Well, it's time to talk about one of the greatest members of the Amiga community, our friend, our sponsor, Retro Rewind.
He is pretty great, Boat.
Yeah. Listen, if you have a Commodore computer that needs a little love, that needs a little TLC, you got options. We live in 2022. You got options. You don't just chuck that thing in the bin. Well, sometimes I do, but most of the time you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to try and fix it yourself. And if you can't fix it yourself, you want to send it to somebody that can. Okay. Now, Retro Rewind will give you all the tools that you need to fix computers yourself, whether you need a chip puller, whether you need some new capacitors, whether you need a diagnostic cartridge. Frank over at RetroRewind.ca has got you covered. Now, what if you're in the boat where it's just like you've got a computer, it doesn't switch on, and you don't know what to do? You don't feel comfortable doing the repair yourself? No problem. Just ship the whole thing up to Frank. He and his crack team of technicians will open it up. They'll tell you what's going on with it. They'll give you an estimate, and then they will repair it for you. And they will do it, and it will not break the bank. Aaron, what's your favorite thing on Retro Rewind these days?
Well, you know, I'm always partial to, the Coco gets so little love, Boat. And we both think it's a luxurious, a beautiful, gorgeous machine.
I'm looking at mine right now.
And it can't be overstated how important it is that if you have a Coco to get you an SDC for the Coco. And Frank has SDCs in stock, ready to ship. He's a North America Boat up in Canada. He gets his stuff to you quick, fast, super speedy, and you will be a happy boy when you pull this thing out, shove it in the old Coco, because then you're in, brother. Mm-hmm. You're one of the cool kids, and you're playing all your Coco favorites. He's also got the Kung Fu Flash for the Commodore 64. I think everyone's got one of these, but if you don't got one, what are you waiting for? It's the Kung Fu freaking Flash. Get this sucker, stick it in there. It takes care of your business on the C64 as well, Bode.
That's right, and you can use promo code Amigos10 at checkout to save 10% off anything in the store. So load up your cart, use that promo code Amigos10, and save yourself some money and get you some goodies.
Exactamundo, boat.
All right, Aaron, let's talk about F-15 Strike Eagle 2.
Ooh. Ooh, I like the love theme from F-15 Strike Eagle boat. It's pretty good. So, it's funny. When this came up, I thought, I've played this game, man. I know I've played it. But I hadn't played it. I played F-15 Strike Eagle 1 on the NES, and I played Super F-15 Strike Eagle on the Super Nintendo.
So you fired all around it.
Well, you were there. We played that when we spun the wheel on the I think it was the first or second Thanksgiving.
Oh,
And we picked you were
okay.
there. Remember,
Okay.
I watched some of the video today, and you were like, this is the way you do it on a console. Make the first level easy. And that was ringing through my head as I began the first level of F-15 Strike Eagle 2 for the Amiga. So this was released 91, came on 2 discs, and was ECS OCS. Of course, this was put together by the fellows over at MicroProse. And developed by the MPS Labs, which is basically in-house labs for MicroProse. You know who worked on this boatster? A guy
Sid
named
freaking Meier.
That's right, dude. That's right. And he co-designed it with a fellow named Andy Hollis.
Nobody cares about him.
This was, hey, listen. Oh man, you don't want this guy on you. Coded by Adrian Scottney and Tim Walter, and the graphics were done by Scottney, Walter, and Mark Scott. And the music we just
There's a lot
heard,
of Scots in there.
Great Scott. The music we just heard was from Dave Lowe. I like his in his bio here. His nickname is Uncle Art. I like that. I don't know why that is. This got passed around, boat, and appeared on such luminary systems as the Tandy PC and Tandy PC / IBM PC Junior. That's right, 16-color graphics. This may be appearing on Find a Tandy at some point. Sharp X68000, the Mega Drive / Genesis, the old DOS, of course, the NEC PC98, and our good buddy, the Atari ST. Got this one as well, Bode. I should have asked before we get too deep in. Is this one you ever picked up in the past?
I had to remind, when I fired it up, I had to see if it looked familiar because all of these are kind of like sports games. They're all named after planes, and because of that, they all run together for me.
Right.
Name a game like Wings. I remember Wings.
Yeah.
But like F-17,
You got
Interceptor,
F-19,
F-15.
Yeah. You got
So,
tons of these things.
I understand why they did it, because if you are a flight sim geek, then you enjoy being able to pilot all these different crafts, but they do all run together in my head. I have no recollection of playing this at Thanksgiving, so I'm glad that I buried the computer versions when I did.
We didn't play this one. Again, we
Oh.
played Super Strike, F-15 Strike. I want to say, before we get too deep into this, that being an old guy like myself, I remember that now I could be wrong here, but I remember F-15 Strike Eagle 1 being a really big deal. It was one of the biggest flight simulators of its day. And I remember it like Gunship. I mean, it was like up on that echelon. And so I remember a whole lot about F-15 Strike Eagle, the first one. And I had played that one. It didn't have a release on the Amiga, but F-15 Strike Eagle 2, I had never tried. So this was really my first go-around with this one. So this game starts off with kind of a neat opening. We sort of played it there. It does the noise. It's got the sort of 3D rendered logo that rolls over. But when you get into the game proper, it asks you for your control, what you're going to use to control the game. And I thought this was sort of interesting, Bode, because right out of the gate, you can use your mouse, you can use the keyboard, you can use your joystick, or you have the ability to use an analog stick. We don't see that every day, do we, Bode?
No, absolutely not.
So I'll give them credit for that, having that as an option.
In fact, how do you use an analog stick with the Amiga?
They had analog sticks for them. I did not have one, and so I could not tell you, if I'm honest, what the I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I assume you could use the same port because you're using the mouse on there, so I'm assuming it's something you can use the same port as you do.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I don't think it was a serial thing or a parallel thing or anything. So once you start the game proper, I mean, there's really no setup here. You will start by you'll first select your the level that you want to play. It gives you 4 options for the level you want to play. From basic to super advanced. There's also a demo mode where you can just watch the Amiga play the game. Did you try that out at all?
I did not do the
Yeah,
demo. No.
I didn't try it, but I did watch a guy in a video who did it. So it plane flies around, does its thing. Then it lets you choose from 6 different scenarios, everything from Libya to Vietnam, Central Europe, some interesting scenarios, I guess. I noticed that when I played the scenarios, like I got real sick of the desert scenarios, and so I tried the non-deserty ones, and it really didn't make much of a difference in the way it looked.
Mhm.
To be honest with you, I played this on Brain Dead Idiot. I'm assuming you probably did too, right?
No, I played this. Well, I first played it on Brain Dead Idiot,
Yeah.
and even for me, that was way too kiddie.
So
So I bumped it up one.
So tell us what is the difference as you went up? I know you had to take off and land, obviously, because in
Yeah,
the other one
and
you don't have to take off.
the enemies, from what I can tell, the enemies are more aggressive
Mhm.
in the higher levels.
So this game does not reinvent the wheel. All right. What it does, it gives you a scenario. When you start the mission, it'll say, "Okay, here is your goal. Here's maybe a secondary goal or a tertiary goal, and then here's the ending part." And then from there on, you use your you're supposed to use basically waypoints to go to where you want to go in the game. And while you're going to where you want to go, you need to fend off anyone that comes after you. You try to take out your targets, and then you try to land this sucker. Um, the cockpit on this thing, and luckily, in fact, we just mentioned, I think it was Level Lord that provided us with the key covering keyboard command lineup, because without that thing, you'd have a rough time. I don't think there are any commands or anything that this thing does that we haven't seen in any other flight simulator off the top of my head. Can you think of anything, Bode? I mean, it looked like standard fare to me. You had throttle up, throttle down, landing gear up and down, shaft, flak. You could afterburner. You could switch between 4 different weapons. You could toggle the view of the airplane. Pretty much the standard stuff. Did you see anything in there that you thought was unique?
No, no,
Okay.
everything is pretty much like you'd expect it to be.
Right. Now, as you go into combat, at least now this, and you told me you really thought the training missions are real simple. I mean, I will admit that when you got shot in these, it does little to no damage, which that does make it simple. But it seems like you're almost instantly in the thick of it, and it seems like you're in the thick of it the whole time. Like you've got in the first scenario I played, which was the Libyan scenario, I had planes on me from the time I started the game until the time I ended the game. They were all over me, and occasionally the game will stop what it's doing to show you a cutscene of another plane taking off, which I thought was kind of neat. That is something that I guess that's something you don't see in every game, Bode.
Well, if you turn on the director mode, actually, that is something that's different about this game. This game features a director mode. Okay. So the director mode, actually, what it does is it takes you out of the plane and it shows you all of these different viewpoints. It shows you when planes are taking off. It follows your missile when you shoot your missile.
Yeah.
It moves the thing around, and you don't get that in every single game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is one thing that this game does differently.
The missile thing, I've seen that before, but it's always good for a LARP to turn that thing on and watch it go. So I did do that a couple of times. Now, I want to talk about. I hate to get into this right away, but I mean I got to. Let's talk about the heads-up displays and the monitors in your F-15 Strike Eagle. What I like in one of these games is to be able to see where my waypoint is on the map, to check it off, target it, set my waypoint, and then know the distance, that how far away I am from it. So I guess I had a lot of trouble doing that in this game. I also had trouble. I mean, once you can target something, you can actually get a distance from it. But in terms of your waypoints, it just seemed like I would drive in my jet forever to get to these things. Not on every mission, but the first mission, right top, right out the gate, it seemed like you had to go forever before you got to these things. I kept thinking to myself, by going the wrong way, there's a big yellow arrow on the screen. So I can't imagine that, I mean, not being the way to go, which it was. It was telling you the way to go, but man, it took me forever to get there. And then once you get to the target, I had a heck of a time targeting the target. Knowing like what altitude should I go to, stuff like that. Is it just me, Bo? Did you have any of these issues?
Yeah, I think it's just you. I
Oh,
didn't have. Well, okay. I will say this: it does take a long time for you to get to your target.
right.
I think that's the most simmy part of this quote unquote flight sim, is that you do have to drive or fly forever, and there's no way to speed up the time. We played another flight sim,
Yeah, what was
and
that?
we
Was that Knights of the Sky? We had to, it was. I remember that. Where it took
yeah,
forever to get to
it's
places.
some other one we played, and they had a basically it was just like a time speed up button, and that one could come back and screw you though, because if you didn't slow down time when you were getting attacked, you'd be dead right away.
Yeah,
So there's no easy way to do that. If you're trying to make things at least quasi realistic and taking off from what would be a realistic distance, because obviously your battleship isn't going to be parked within missile range of the land of the enemy territory. So but in terms of being able to target stuff, being able to shoot at stuff, all of the targets that I was shooting at were ground based.
yeah.
And all you have to do is like, and again, thank you to Level Lord for printing or for providing us that keyboard layout. All you do is you hit the G key to arm your ground missile, and then you watch the little window in the right that tells you, yep, you're locked on. And then you hit the enter key and it blows up and it goes bullseye.
Yeah.
And then you circle around and you do the next thing. Now, I will say that this game, the biggest problem I have with this game is you need to have something that is sort of in between, like following the waypoint it makes it almost too easy. Like because you're not really looking at anything else other than that big yellow arrow.
Yeah.
You have a radar, like a long, medium, and short range radar that you can toggle between on the left side of the screen, but all it shows you are squares of different colors.
Yeah.
And it's not useful.
I
It's
thought
not
it sucked.
useful.
It
Yeah.
looks like your pilot's like playing a game of Time Pilot in the game. Like
Yeah.
it's just you see different colored ships coming and going, and you're right. You're dead set on the target you're after, and so the arrow points you in the direction, but it's not. I wouldn't call even that arrow super precise. I had trouble. I really did have trouble finding my targets. Like I would be in the general vicinity of the target. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Well,
not
if
like
you
hundreds
use
of miles away.
well, like I said, there, if you're target and what you have to do. Oh, and Level Lord says you do have time acceleration, so I missed that. That was my bad. I guess Alt A gives you time acceleration, so I guess you could use that.
I would have
So
been
sorry.
afraid to use it because there were so many
Right.
bad guys on me.
You're constantly being shot at. But anyway, what you have to do is you have to, you fly, you're flying towards the target and you're constantly spamming the G key, or you're constantly spamming the T key
Yeah.
to get your target to lock on.
That's what
And
I
then
did.
and then as soon as you do that, then you can lock on. Like I said, it's a very to call this a simulation. I'm pretty sure that doing this is a lot more difficult than that. But it's also not very fun either.
No.
It's like it's most of the time I'm all for dumbing stuff down, especially at the early levels. But this game, they've sort of, I think, Sid Meier is famous for taking more kind of heavy simulation genre style games and making them more palatable for your everyday player.
Yeah.
You can see that in Civilization, you can see that in Pirates. And so I think he was trying to do the same thing with the flight sim, but he made it too. I mean, it's just you literally have to do, and it's there's not a lot of variety in these missions. I played the first 3, and they were all you blow up your primary target, you blow up your secondary target, you return to the friendly airbase. And now maybe in the later levels that I didn't get to, maybe there's more to it than that.
I played the
But
European campaign. I think it's one of the later levels, and
okay,
it
so
well,
what were the
I
objectives like
completed
there?
it. It was the same, exactly what you said. The
Okay.
only thing I couldn't do was land. I crashed when I tried to land, but
Well,
otherwise, I
and that
completed
brings
the
me
rest
to
of it.
the next bit of this. Like you can fly without the autopilot, or you can fly with the autopilot, and it doesn't really matter because all you're doing is flying towards the waypoint. I mean, that's literally all you're doing is flying towards the waypoint. The autopilot helps you get to and maintain altitude, but the really the only the biggest challenge in this game is landing. Now,
Yeah.
you said that you had problems with landing with autopilot.
Well,
I did not.
I had problems landing with and without autopilot. One
Oh yeah,
time, autopilot just put me right in the dirt. I was
yeah,
like, son of a
I
gun.
could not land without autopilot, but I'm glad that they have that on there because normally landing is the most frustrating part of any of these types of games. And some people like that frustration, but I don't because what that means is that you've essentially wasted the last 15 minutes of your time. And now, if I would have used acceleration and got to the objectives quicker and then spent more time on landing, maybe I would have spent, more time trying to get to grips with the manual landing. But since I didn't know about the time acceleration, you're right. It just takes you so long to accomplish these missions. I died way more from running out of fuel
Yes.
because I couldn't target, like sometimes you'd come up on a target and you just couldn't target it, and then you'd have to circle back
Circle
around
around.
again.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
also
and
circling. I died one time circling the landing pad, trying to get on
mhm.
that because that was frustrating too. I also ran out of fuel a lot. But for the most part, everything you said, It's funny because I was like, man, Boat's just gonna laugh at me for being dumb. But I had the same problems. Am I going the right way? Why is this taking so long? How do I get these guys off me? And then when I get there, hitting the T key over and over, I did all that stuff. And when since I played on the sucker level, I really wasn't too worried about the other guys shooting me and killing me, so I could do it. But I thought to myself, if they made this game, what I would have done is I would have jettisoned a lot of the simulation part of this. And with this setup, you probably could have made a really cool, more like an arcadey, like a G-Lock type game. It would have been a lot more fun than this. I mean, this thing's caught somewhere in the middle, and that's where you don't want to be.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I will say that this game does a lot of cool things. The graphics are definitely nothing to write home about. They were standard, I would say, for this time period.
Yeah.
They're not horrible, but they're not, out of this world. I do like the juxtaposition of the hand-drawn pixel art in some of the cockpit views with the 3D rendered view, especially impressive. You've got this view. This is a very unrealistic view because it's sort of like if you're like a very small mouse and you're sitting on the lap of the pilot looking at the throttle arm and you're kind of looking over the instrument cluster on the side and you're looking out the window.
Yeah.
That viewpoint is cool because you're seeing this pixel art and your hand looks awesome, handing, and then you look out the window and you see these graphics at a sort of skewed, like side, almost more of a side-on viewpoint,
Yeah.
and it's kind of neat. Of course, you've got all of your normal views which are outside the cockpit, and one of the things that you can do, one of the things that I did while you're waiting for this, interminable time to get to the objective, is you go out, you look at all your different viewpoints, you fly around, you do barrel rolls and stuff while you're looking at your plane from the outside, and that's cool. But like you said, there really isn't anything in this game except with the exception. Oh, actually, here's another cool thing. You constantly get information in this game. It's like you have like a ticker that is throwing up facts about your world as you move through this thing. So like whenever a plane takes off from somewhere, you see that. Whenever you destroy something, it tells you exactly what you destroyed. I thought that was cool too. That kind of kept me engaged and it made me feel like I was part of this world that was alive. It wasn't just, me and everything else was sort of static. And like I said, the director mode is really cool too. So if you're going to play this game, you should definitely come at it more, I think, from almost like an arcade simulation type game or an arcade, type game. The sim stuff in this game is pretty light. But there are games that will probably give you a better time. Whether you, like you said, this game is caught in the middle and it's not a good place to be.
I've read also that this, if you have an accelerated Amiga, this thing goes bananas. So that's something to keep an eye on. But with all that said, I mean, listen, if you want some light fare, if you're a simulation fan, like this is on my level. Like I
Yeah,
could play
me too.
this.
Me too.
So it's not like I felt overwhelmed. And once I took a look at the keyboard, the mapping for all the keys, I felt pretty good about controlling the thing. But I did get frustrated with the targeting. I don't like the maps. You know, the radar has 3 different settings, but I don't like the radar at all. I don't like the information you get. I just didn't think I didn't think it worked that well. I don't like the waypoint arrow even. It just looks dopey to me.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. So I think that was a big mistake. I did like the hand drawn. I didn't use the other angles that much. The director mode's kind of cool, but on the flip side, it's kind of depressing to see MiG after MiG scramble to come kill you. These SAM sites shooting missiles all over the place. You're like, well, I'm screwed. I thought the landing was tough, but that's some of those things. That's one of those things you could probably get better at if you play it, you know, for a while. You know, this would have been a lot more fun to fight a guy, there's no option for that. So you're not fighting. There's no 2-player. There's no, you know, connected to Amigas up or any of that stuff. That's out. So, you know, it's okay. This did get a bunch of ports, and so just for fun, I thought we would have a look at our old pal, the ever popular Atari ST, and the ST version looks very similar to the Amiga version overall. If I could actually get some video to come up on here, I thought they looked close enough to where I figured that, you know, because the ST has that rep of being able to play that stuff better, you know. But you know, what do you think? Did you have a look at the ST version at all? Does it look like it runs better
I'm just
than
looking
you?
at it now,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, it looks totally comparable. So
Yeah, I'm like you. The Amiga version didn't exactly run silky smooth,
yeah.
you know, but it was okay. I mean, it was a game of its time. I can
And
tell you,
you know, I was reading on the Discord, people were having trouble getting this to run on faster Amigas.
yeah,
So this isn't necessarily a game that the faster Amiga you have, the better it's going to run.
yeah. I can already tell you that I like Atari ST's Arrow better.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right now just from looking at that. But I mean, I'd say it's probably fairly comparable if you have an ST. And again, this got ported into a bunch of different stuff, so you could probably find something you could play it on. I looked at some reviews on this boat, and there were hundreds of them. I'm just going to go over a few of the big heavy hitters. First of all, Lemon Amiga gave this a 7.66 out of 10. Amiga actually gave this a 75. I read some of these, and I'll get into that in a second. Amiga Format gave this a 90. Amiga Joker gave it an 89. Amiga Power at 87. CU Amiga a 93. And the One gave this an 89. Total cumulative score, according to Lemon, 87, which that sounds about right. I probably wouldn't go that high, if I'm honest. I think this is you know, at some point in the lower 80s for me. Just because it's, you know, these things never appeal to me all that much, but this one was pretty basic.
This is a tough one for me to rate, to give a score to, because we play these types of games so infrequently.
Yeah.
Not super infrequently. I mean, the last one that we did was in September, so it hasn't been that long, but I never remember what year everything comes out. And so, but I really feel like all of the Amiga flight simulators, they all kind of look like this.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
yeah, I mean, you're right, but I accept how they look. But part of the fun, like even the missions on this, if you were going to say like, hey, what are the 6 generic missions you're going to pull up? I mean, there's nothing. I mean, how about really thinking outside the box here?
Right. And remember the
bit?
game that we played not long ago? I think it was Thunderhawk, but it might have been something else. But it gave you that, like, you went into the briefing room.
Yeah, that
remember
was
that?
cool.
And they
Yeah.
showed the movie. Like, you
Yeah.
get none of that in this game.
Yeah,
MicroProse really kind of cheaped
you
out
get
on the accoutrement.
You get some screens where you get awards or when you die, but it's not like they're not cool animated screens.
And they
like in
also don't
Thunderhawk.
show your plane crashing in this game.
Yeah, it just says you're dead. And it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's very stirring. It's like, what just happened? You're like, oh, I
Right.
got killed. So yeah, I would say it's sort of no frills. But I mean, if you're looking for some simple fun and just you've got maybe an hour to kill, this is one you could pick up and play. I'd say pretty easily. Did we get any Discord action on this one, Boat?
Yeah, we did. Give me a second just to find that real quick. Okay, here we go. We got one review this week, and it is from Level Lord. Level Lord says, Level Lord's all over the place on this
Yeah,
episode.
no kidding.
This is not a standard combat flight sim, but rather an arcade combat sim. I understand why they made it this way, and it was a nice way to introduce the beautiful world of flight simulators to new players. I've completed Libya, Persian Gulf, and Vietnam on pilot level, but did not really enjoy it too much. The air combat is decent, while the lack of more missions is a missed opportunity here. Graphics are normal for the era, and the sound effects should be better. Missions feel the same. Go hit the primary and secondary target and get back home. Kill whatever's in your way there and back. I found annoying the first CRT, which should reflect your map, didn't track me. In the second screen, I had no idea who the bogeys were, and the tracking of the enemy was pathetic.
He's right there.
I killed more of my friendly aircraft most of the time than the enemy, since I couldn't determine if the MiG-15 was a friend or a foe. Also, there was no distance to the primary and secondary target, just general direction of where the target is. Eventually, I would be able to target it hitting the T a bazillion times. Does this sound familiar, Aaron?
Yes,
While
like
approaching. Landing is tricky. Runway always appears too short, and lack of proper flaps made it hard to do it. It's even worse with the aircraft carrier, which I dislike. Last thing I can remember is that you can't drop your landing gear when you want, but when the game thinks you're close to the strip. Why? All in all, solid 6 just for the missed opportunities. Oh yes, autopilot to help you land is not to be trusted. Be warned.
It's like I think I wrote that without knowing. That's everything I mentioned. He mentions some stuff I forgot about. The especially on the radar, you have no idea who are good guys and bad guys.
Right.
And so I've had the exact same problem. He had the same problem with distance. He had the same problem with targeting. He had the same problem with landing. Good. If Level Lord, who I know is a genius with these games, had trouble with it, I feel far less stupid than I did before I started this review because I was afraid you'd come in here and just laugh at me for being dumb. Lastly, just to close the book on this, I looked this up on the eBay Boat. Believe it or not, these are available even stateside, ranging from goofy complete in box prices from like somewhere like $17-18 all the way up to some guy asking $150 for them. Boat. So they're going for I'd say they're priced for what they deserve to be priced. Somewhere below $20, you could probably pick this up if you wanted to. It wouldn't be the worst idea. I don't think it's hideous, but, and it's a shame it doesn't run better on faster machines because that actually would have helped quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
All right. Well, it's time, Aaron, to move on to what's been going on in the Amigos wider community. What's been going on our multiple YouTube channels, Aaron?
Our multiple... It makes it sound so important when you say it that way. We've had a lot of releases this week. Let's start off with myself and the Brent over at ARG Presents with the ever popular. We played Banned from YouTube. Banned from YouTube. It was banned. Both.
It was
This was your category that we.
So this week you're like, I don't know what Boat was talking about when and then you went on for 15 minutes to explain exactly what I was talking about.
Well, I mean, it was hard to. The thing is, I understood that we were banned from YouTube, but I didn't understand how we were going to get games out of that. But luckily,
I gave you several suggestions for games, none of which you played.
We played them already, so there you go.
You have not played AVG unboxing.
How would that? We didn't get banned for that, by the way. So anyway, Boat. This luckily for Boat, he's acting like he had a cunning plan. But luckily, this actually came up almost exactly on the anniversary of when we did get banned. Did you know that?
I planned that. Been planning it for years.
How did you do that? How'd you get the wheel to come up exactly right?
Listen, I got ways. I'm a genius.
So we actually talk about the time that our channel, thanks to myself and the Brent, got banned from streaming live on YouTube. That was good times. I felt real good. That was a lot of eating done that week, that's for sure.
What is that picture with you sitting next to the face of the Brent?
I filmed. This is a little video.
Oh, that was YouTube jail.
That's
I remember
YouTube
that
jail.
video.
I filmed this to explain to people that we were moving to Twitch, and I dug this up out of the archive.
Look how great you look with your Bill and Ted shirt on.
Yeah, I know. You noticed the hilarity because that's why we got banned. But we used the beginning of the show here to talk about why we got banned, what we did about it, and what could be done. And so if you're interested in understanding what happens when you try to deal with YouTube, you might get a kick out of that. Then we both were like, well, what games we should play? Well, let's play things that are real controversial. And so I was like, okay. So Brent picked it, one of my all-time favorite games, Carmageddon. Oh man, I love this game so much. It's so much fun. All the sequels were good. Carmageddon TDR, Carmageddon the second Carmageddon was great. I loved all these. And then I picked, because I had to play it, Boat, because I think the people demanded it. I played Samantha Fox strip poker, brother.
She looks like Patsy from Ab Fab.
I told Brent that she looked like she was auditioning for the part of the Invisible Man, but that's my guess. But yes, Samantha Fox and all of her digitized glory on the C64, and we had a good time with this. It's funny, I told Brent on the show, because Brent was like, we can't play any porn games. I'm like, listen, I don't think it's that bad, and I was right, because there's like 5 seconds of digitized nudity at the very end. So I just clipped it off. That was it. I didn't even know editing. So yeah, people that bought this were probably disappointed with the lack of naked Samantha Fox. But I also get to talk about who Samantha Fox is for about 15 minutes, which is lots of fun for me, because Brent never heard of her. So there you go. That's what we did on ARG this week. If that's your cup of tea, we had a lot of fun doing that one, Boatster. We also released this week, Boat, Nighttime. It's Nighttime's the right time to release this. Tell us about this bad boy.
So this is another one of those wacky Spectrum games, of which there really is no analog on the American side.
No.
We didn't have games like this.
No.
This is a platforming adventure game with a windowed UI. So it's about as fun as it sounds, folks.
This was a. I mean, the UI was impressive. Actually, I think that was
the UI was the best part of the game. Unfortunately, we also had to play the game.
Well, I mean, it was one of those games. That's one of those games. You know, it's literally foreign to us. And if I was a kid back in the '80s and I spent, $5 or $6, I got to take this home and play it for like 1,000 hours, I'd probably have loved it. I can understand why people love it. I mean, it is widely loved too. So that's that. Plus, if you tune in, you can see me and Bo. We look like a team.
Yeah.
Look at that. We both got our Amiga Ireland shirts on. I just noticed that. So that's I almost called it crime time. That is nighttime. Over on the Amigos Street Teachers, we had a ton of stuff come up this week. My gosh, it's so much stuff. Let's talk about. I don't think I mentioned this, Boat. Well, let's talk. We'll start at the beginning here. Last week I did a live stream for the first time in a while. It was the old Friday night disaster stream, Boat. And I played myself some Amiga games, and I worked my way up on Lemon's Hot 100 action games. I started around 100 and just picked out games I hadn't played or didn't play much and worked my way through them. And it turns out the bottom rung of Amiga games on Lemon actually has some pretty decent stuff in there, Boat.
I was very surprised with the quality of a lot of these games.
Yeah, I was real pleased. And some of the stuff that I've avoided playing, like the Plague. In fact, this
version of Boulder Dash that you're playing right there,
Emerald
I can't remember.
Mine. Yeah, the name of it.
That's seriously the best version of Boulder Dash I've ever seen.
Well, so. I never liked Boulder Dash.
Me neither, but this one's good.
I like the fact that you can kind of juke your way out of trouble.
Right.
So that was kind of fun. So if you're interested in, and I'll tell you, this is a good hour and it's almost 2 hours of incredibly hot Amiga action. A lot of stuff you probably haven't seen before. Because I was trying to, when you've done as much Amiga games as we have, I want to see some stuff that we haven't tried so we can get some ideas and stuff, And I got a bunch of ideas for games. There was a game in here called Deliverance that I've never played before, and I mean the name doesn't do any favors, but
it's like a god.
It's like super
homage.
Gods, yeah. So it was pretty cool. So anyway, that's your boy here for.
I also enjoyed all of the classic chop suey kung fu films that were playing in the corner.
Oh
of the
yeah,
screen.
I also put demos in there too. Hey, a little something just to watch if you don't like what I'm playing. Just almost a week ago, we did this beauty, Boat. It's the Taze Valley Classic Computer Club. From just this past Saturday, myself, Boat, the Brent, Matt, John, Terry was there, Chad was there, and we actually did computer stuff.
Yeah,
even Boat did lots of computer stuff. Tell them what we did, Boat.
This was the most computer-centric computer club of all time.
Yeah.
We got off to a somewhat slow start. Because I was expecting you to roll in with the Apple II GS, and I didn't prepare anything else, which is a failure on my part.
And the funny thing is, you had tons of stuff prepared because we did it all.
And so, but once you arrived with the Apple II GS, we kicked things off with that. then John Marshall showed off his Mr. Pi Roland MIDI. What's it called?
It's
MT.
that gimmick, the MTP or whatever.
Yeah,
it plays
yeah. So
MIDI stuff.
you can listen to
Monkey
Roland
Island,
based
Roland,
soundtrack
Roland,
games
Roland.
with your Mister and
Yeah.
this Pi based device.
People love those things, but
We fired up the VIC 20.
we
The
tried.
Vic needs some work.
Yeah.
But we did get some action out of it. We spent a lot of time with the Apple II GS. The GS also is in, well, the GS, you successfully recapped that beast.
Yeah.
It runs like a top now. Now we just got to figure out how to get more games to work through the compact flash interface.
Yeah, but I was pleased. The recapping is complete. By the way, MT32. Thank you,
MT32. Yeah, that's
Listen,
it.
you can listen to all your Lucasfilms weird, creepy mall Oregon music that everybody goes crazy over. I'm like, we got an Amiga here. Why is everybody going nuts over this? Or the Commodore 64?
Mall Oregon music is the best descriptor of that I've ever heard.
Remember you get there's always that dude out in front of Pied Piper.
Yeah.
Like, people love that. I'm like, why are we spending extra money to get
that
this
is awesome. You need to copyright
sound?
That. Man, it's been a long time since that's existed. Both the Oregon guy and Pied Piper at the mall.
We went through a lot of these ST games, but
yeah. So then we got out the ST.
Yeah, and
the
ST's got some problems.
Yeah, so the ST came out thanks to the OSSC, because that thing was flipping through resolutions like nobody's business. Then so this was a I purchased this thing from Josh from 48K RAM.
Yeah.
And then Kit, Discord's own Kit, sent me a whole bunch of ST discs. And so we played through a bunch of different ST games. Would you say that the Trivial Pursuit game was the winner out of that batch?
Well, no. I don't think there was no clear winner, as far as I could tell. We did play the game we're going to be covering on the Atari ST show this week briefly, as much as you could.
So the ST, unfortunately, the ST has a joystick issue.
Yeah.
Much like all of my retro computers, they all seem to have issues of one kind or another. But next Boat Fest, I'm going to bring that and the Amiga 600 over and hopefully get some work done on those.
You know what you should do with the ST? It just occurred to me. You should send it over to Chris Edwards and see if he explodes when he opens the box.
I have a feeling I wouldn't be getting it back. It would enter the old circular file, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you. That was a fun time after the initial incredible anger that I felt. So this was, speaking of something wacky, I put this up, Bode. On Halloween, we did a little thing called Conversation with the Dark Side, but we followed that up. The TeamSpeaker regulars hosted a one-night Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game, complete one-night adventure, and this is the video from that. It was myself, David Z, Texas Foosballer, and Pat, a.k.a. Spartan, who's running the game. Look at all these incredibly detailed...
I've got to say, your Pat is what you call an expert when it comes to the tabletop simulator.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this before in my life.
Yeah, you could zoom right in, zoom right into it. It was a very clever game, too. And for Pat, it was very light on the combat. I was stunned. He was very clever. I think he had help with like a professional writer or something. I'm serious.
Now,
I think he told me
if you want to give us like the 10-second hook to get us to watch this thing. What was the plot?
Well, the plot is nothing is as it seems, Bode. I mean, it starts off, it's one of those like a Twilight Zone or something. It starts off, you don't know what's happening, and at the end, it's all revealed in this climactic ending. And plus, it ended at the exact point where I started to get tired. So it worked.
That's always the best.
It worked out great. So we may start putting some of these TSI RPG things up on the stream team if people dig them. So they're fun. Hey, this one's done okay for that channel. Listen here, we've got a few more things here. I want to talk about Happy Coding. Has his new video out. Now, I haven't got to flip through this one yet. I posted it a month as I was putting up a bunch of other stuff here. Of course, this is our boy Happy. I think he was in the chat here. What is Happy Coding's home cooking? Happy Coding is a very popular and well-respected coder on the ZX Spectrum. He sets down, he takes time out of his valuable schedule to teach you, lowly schmo, some of his incredible techniques on programming with the ZX Spectrum. This is an ongoing series that he's running. I recommend it. It's Happy Cuttings Home Cooking. And you can go back and look at these. They're dated, and you can just watch the whole thing. So even if you're coming late, get your program on, man. That's what you should do. Now this was nice. Our buddy Flack was a little bit under the weather, boat, but he came back roaring back with a vengeance.
Yeah, he did. He's currently on some sort of a wild road trip.
Oh man, he always gets out there. And this time, once he's off his feet for a few seconds, he jumps up. He does a springboard up, like in no hands. He's like, I'm ready. And he just takes off. This was one where he actually plays a game that we've played on the show. He plays a bunch of different mini golf games, including Zany Golf, Bo. You remember Zany Golf?
Yeah, man.
I think we both buried Zany Golf.
Not so good.
Deep beneath the planet. But he liked it. He had a good time playing it on DOS. And played a few holes of that. Then he came out and found Fuzzy's Golf. You ever play old Fuzzy, Boat?
No,
I hadn't
don't
either.
think so.
Fuzzy's Golf takes place like in space or something.
Okay.
It's real weird. It's got those classic, like, cheap guy DOS graphics that no one really likes, but it's got them. It does have a lot of charm. It's not a very good game, but there's charm. But of course, every time's a good time when the Flaxer's getting involved. So good stuff. Good to see Flack back in the game and having a good time. And then lastly, Boat, and this is actually a sort of a sad farewell for the year, because I think that 48K is hanging it up till the new year. But this is the triumphant finale, the season finale for 48K's stream. This streaming season, as he actually officially has repaired the BBC Master 128. He figured it out all by himself. He ordered the replacement parts, and on this show, he actually sits down and tinkers with it, including some hardware additional items that he throws in there, Boat. Pretty fun. I like watching 48K stuff, and it was so happy for me to see him finish putting that thing together. I'd like to have something that's the BBC Master. I like the sound of that, Boat. We need us a BBC Master.
We're only missing a couple computers from really having everything at this point.
Yeah.
And the BBC Micro is pretty close to the top of that list.
Where's my car Marty, Boat? I don't see that thing sitting around. That's all we got, Boat. That's all we got, only 50 things. So if you're bored, my God, go watch some of the hundreds of things that we've got up here.
All right, Aaron, what do we got coming up next week on Amigos?
Are you excited?
I
can't remember. I can't remember what it is. I hope I put something in here. Let's find out. Oh, man. Oh, what a title. What a name. Pegasus.
The Pegasus was riding high on the court of public opinion back in the 80s and the early 90s, but has since fallen. You never see kids drawing Pegasuses on their trappers anymore. Pegasus is what happened to the Pegasus.
It's really simple. Like, kids don't have imaginations anymore. The second Jurassic Park came out, and they're like, hey, kids, remember those dinosaurs used to draw? Yeah, here they are. It's 10 times better than you could draw it, geek. That's why no one draws a Pegasus, man. Once Clash of the Titans came out, no one could do it better than that. Put it to bed. I don't know what this game is, but that's a album cover level box art they've got on that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I can't wait to play. I don't know what this is. What is next week? Is it Shooter Week or something? What is it?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go with Shooter. And if you're on a Pegasus and you're shooting stuff, I'm in.
All right. Guys, thank you as always for listening. Remember, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Amigos podcast. We'd love to have you join us and join us on Discord. We leave you now with the stirring love theme from F-15 Strike Eagle 2, as well as the list of all of our patrons and Twitch supporters. We will see you next time. Until then,
adios.